Deep in the Peruvian Andes, an Inca city clings to a mountainside so steep it was nearly impossible to build. Documented for over 3 centuries, yet roughly 70% of it remains swallowed by jungle. It sits just 50 kilometers from Machu Picchu. This is Choquequirao, the cradle of gold, and what's still buried there may be the biggest untold story in Inca archaeology. This cloud forest citadel sits perched on a truncated hilltop known as Sunchu Pata, located in Peru's rugged Cusco region. At 3,050 meters above sea level, Choquequirao, literally translating to the cradle of gold in Quechua, looks down into the roaring Apurímac River Canyon. While it shares a close 50-kilometer relationship with Machu Picchu, this sprawling complex remained far harder to reach, locked behind vertical cliffs and a punishing multi-day trek. But how did the Inca construct such monumental stone terraces on slopes this extreme? Who was this remote outpost built to serve, and what remains buried beneath the dense canopy? The truth is a complex puzzle, one that is deeply political. Long before modern archaeologists cleared the dense cloud forest, a quiet trail of ink and paper preserved the memory of this mountain stronghold. Choquequirao was never entirely lost to history. In 1710, a Spanish prospector named Juan Arias Diaz wrote the earliest surviving European account of the site. His colonial report documented 3 separate trips into the rugged terrain, recording the ruins under their local name, which translated to the Cradle of Gold. Over a century later, in the 1830s, the French diplomat Eugène de Sartige braved the steep descent of the Apurímac Canyon. Sartiges produced the first detailed European description of the citadel, sketching the main plaza and documenting local stories of treasure hidden beneath the stone. These sketches and journals, now kept in the French National Archives, showed a complex far grander than a simple outpost. In 1909, the site drew the attention of American explorer Hiram Bingham. Searching for the lost capital of Vilcabamba, Bingham mapped the terraces, climbed the stone stairways, and took the first systematic photographs of the ruins. Though he concluded Choquequirao was a frontier fortress rather than the final capital, his field notes brought the site into the scientific spotlight. Decades later, archaeologist John Howland Rowe studied these early records alongside new surveys. By analyzing Bingham's photographs and Sartiges's drawings, Rowe helped piece together the timeline, suggesting the citadel served as a royal estate and a late refuge during the Spanish conquest. These archival threads show that the city's identity gathered slowly through centuries of study. Yet while Spanish reports, French sketches, and American photographs could prove the city existed, the paper trail left the most difficult questions unanswered. Written history could map these stone plazas, but it could not explain how ancient hands carved them into the sky. To secure a city to a cliffside 3,000 meters high, Inca stonemasons had to conquer gravity. They began with the bedrock, carving stairways directly into the mountain's spine. Upon these foundations, they raised public buildings using massive ashlar masonry, cutting metamorphic rock into heavy blocks that fit without mortar. These stones averaged 10 to 15% larger than those at Machu Picchu, relying on precision joints and interlocking notches to absorb seismic shocks. Doorways and niches lean inward, a classic trapezoidal geometry engineered to resist lateral forces. But the true battle was against water. On these vertical slopes, heavy rains liquefy soil, triggering landslides. To prevent the mountain from collapsing, builders engineered an expansive terracing system. In Sector 11 alone, 80 cultivation terraces act as massive retaining walls, standing over a meter high. Behind each wall lies a filter system of permeable backfill and drainage conduits. Even the white quartz llamas embedded in the stone serve a physical purpose, acting as engineered weep holes to relieve hydrostatic pressure. These terraces were linked to graded irrigation channels, redirecting meltwater from high peaks to prevent erosion. On the northern side of the main plaza, rectangular footprints mark the foundations of imperial QOLQAS or storehouses, built to preserve surplus crops. This colossal undertaking was not the work of a solitary genius, but the result of the MITA, a state-organized system of rotational labor that transformed raw cliffs into a functioning mountain system. Away from the monumental scale, the city shows the quiet traces of its inhabitants. In Sector 10, 18 terraces step down the ridge, while Sector 11 holds 80 cultivation terraces. Across 15 of these steep stone walls, builders embedded 22 engraved llama figures made of white quartz. Nearby, 3 stone fountains once ran with fresh water. Unlike the bare gray granite of Machu Picchu, these buildings featured rough ashlar walls coated in clay plaster, once painted with a warm orange hue. Local Quechua elders say powerful guardian spirits, or apus, protect this silent sacred ground. Their oral histories link the city's final abandonment to a prolonged period of hardship and famine. It makes one wonder how many other strange details remain completely unstudied in the high cloud forest. What was this mountain outpost actually built to serve? Proponents of the administrative center theory cite the large public plazas and storehouses as evidence of imperial control over the region. Yet the site lacks the residential quarters needed to house a permanent governing class. Perhaps it was a ceremonial center. Aligned platforms and quartz-embedded terraces suggest ritual significance, but archaeologists have found no major temple ruins or sacrificial deposits to prove this role. Alternatively, the vast terracing suggests an agricultural reserve built to supply the empire. Yet the local population was far too small to require such a massive surplus. None of these models explain the entire site. This leaves the refuge hypothesis, the possibility that Choquequirao served as a final military stronghold during the Spanish conquest. While its position overlooking the regional road network suggests a strategic checkpoint, the lack of fortifications or battle damage leaves this role uncertain. Ground-penetrating radar has yet to verify any hidden subterranean chambers that might hold answers. It is highly likely that this cloud forest outpost was never just one thing, but a city whose purpose evolved over time. Recent mapping has sharpened the visible plan of the mountaintop, but the most precise answers come from laboratory science. Radiocarbon analysis of organic residues narrows the primary construction window to between 1450 and 1520 CE, placing the city's rise at the peak of imperial expansion. Beneath the ground, geochemical soil testing reveals high concentrations of phosphorus, calcium, and copper, proving that Inca farmers systematically fertilized these high slopes. Meanwhile, ceramic petrography has matched the mineral composition of excavated pottery with volcanic clay from the Cusco Valley, proving strong ties to the capital. Yet modern technology has its limits. Despite high-resolution surface mapping, no peer-reviewed LiDAR data or subsurface scans have confirmed hidden chambers beneath the stone plazas. The soil reveals how this mountain city lived, but its deepest spaces remain entirely unread. The very isolation that shielded Choquequirao for centuries now presents its greatest threat. Heavy storms and active landslides chip away at the steep terraces, while rising waters of the Apurímac River destabilize the cliffs below. On the surface, trail widening from footsteps wears down the paths, and treasure hunters leave empty looting pits in remote sectors. Local families work to stabilize the slopes, planting native trees to hold the soil. Under Law 28,296, any future excavation must pass strict ethical and community reviews. Protecting this living environment is now as important as uncovering its remaining secrets. As modern paths close in on Choquequirao, the cloud forest is slowly yielding its final secrets. The deepest mystery is not what we have uncovered, but what remains buried just out of reach. Some empires are never truly lost. They are simply waiting. Subscribe for more untold history.